Hello and welcome to the Friday wrap-up powered by the Gockstein News Network. I'm your host, Landy, and today is August 1st, 2025. So we have a few things to go over. First off, we have resolved the range and hit expansion on the daily to the downside in this case for Bitcoin, targeting some of the areas of interest that we had spoken about, nearly hitting some of them already. We'll see what's in store for price kind of coming into the weekend and especially on the weekly. But more importantly, we should probably take a look at the higher term time frame, which is the prior monthly close into the current monthly open. So let's go ahead and get right into it. This is going to be very Bitcoin focused. I might reference traditional markets. We're not going to take a look at any Ethereum and Solana, Sui, or any of the other alts right now. I'll save that for Monday's video. So we do want to know kind of where Bitcoin's headed, because in general, where Bitcoin is headed, we will likely see alts follow in their US dollar pair. I will be taking a look at Bitcoin dominance though today. So let's go ahead and jump into the support and resistance areas of interest up here and take a look at what we got going on. So Bitcoin so far has dropped the bottom side of the range on a close, and look at that close open, by the way. Right there where we got our test, right down to the bottom side of our range that we had carved out at 115,700. This is why this area was so important to me from an analyst point of view. You see that once we got the close open, started trading below it. We even closed below that lower second standard deviation, initiating expansion into this area of support and resistance, and then continuing that in the Friday candle. Now, of course, the Saturday session is open. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Got the close open right on it and then down through it. Now with the close coming in here at 113,250 and the low coming in at 112,659. Now, if this does start to move back up and especially recover the bottom side of this range, right around, the 115,700, or take out that 116 rejection right there, that would look pretty good for the bulls. And that would be a valid test down towards our area of support and resistance, or the prior zone of interest as a resistance zone. And that would be our front run. And then we look for any trading back below, the 114,750 lower second for continuation of expansion down here. Now, Bitcoin close opened underneath the lower second. This is expansion into support. Next big target area is 112 to 109, the big weekly level. Yes, there is daily areas of interest in here. It's going to be right around the 110 region and 110 and a half or so. And I don't have any kind of set targets for where price could fall within here. You're going to see some people might, from this range here, you'll see a couple of fib pulls like, we'll take this to this. And we've got like 111,500 and 109.8, so basically 110. And then we've got, 108,500, so on and so forth. I'm not very interested in that. I want to see how price actually reacts if it starts to get to this level. So I do suggest, if you're an analyst as well, be very aware that this is expansion into support. We could see some wicks down through, as many of you already know, and it's going to be about the closes. In this case, closes below the lower second standard deviation, which is now at 114,225, would, beget further expansion of price action down into the 112, at least the top side of the structure at minimum. And I would be looking for a continuation of expansion if we start to especially drop the bottom side 109. This was a pretty nice squeeze and compression on the daily. If we were going to see the 109 area dropped, then we got to look right back to where this move originated from, that 108 to the 107, 270 swing low. Anywhere below there, it starts to get nasty for the bulls here, and likely right back into the top side of this consolidation, and really starting to hunt liquidity in there. But we have to give it a chance. That's just conditions, right? As it stands right now, there's still the opportunity on the board for the bulls. Just be aware of the big area 112 to 109 and some of the daily levels in between, generally around 110, right? So back to the upside. what the bulls need to do is recover this range here. So over the weekend, if we don't get a shot down into the support area here, the support resistance zone of interest that we want to see flipped into support, and it gets front run, what we want to see is price getting back above and closing above the lower second standard deviation in this case around this place right here, this low at 114,750. I'm having a tough time with words today, and English is my first language, as it turns out. Now, that still doesn't do much recovering this swing low outside of the range lows. Need to see 115,700 recovered by the lower first standard deviation, and more importantly, get back above that 117,800 to 118 right around the basis band. Now, if price is, going sideways, for instance, and it's just kind of chopping around here on the bottom through the Saturday session into the Sunday close, just be aware that the basis band will continue to move down after the Saturday close. And we do need to see a recovery of right around that 117,800, 118 area. That's going to be the important area, of course, and then go back to the top side here, 120 to 121, where that upper second is, and start, reversing course. But because this is a compression into expansion, just be aware of that. This is just starting, but throwbacks right back to the top side are not out of the question. We see this quite often when price is kind of chopping around. But there is some macroeconomic news kind of behind this. There's a big miss in non-farm payroll that's kind of shaking the market a little bit. Now, granted, unemployment did tick up by 0.1%, but that was also what was expected. So it was really that non-farm payroll that was throwing people off from BLS. So, and kind of threw the markets for a little bit of a loop. But, it's also, we saw some of the data coming through on the month over month. It was kind of expected. And we'll see kind of how things work. We're getting a big trade back into the dollar from foreign investment, kind of trading back into the dollar in response to some of the deals that have already been done in regards to trade. We'll see how that affects things going forward, because Dixie has been bouncing pretty hard, and we'll see how sustainable that is. I'm not going to get into that too much today. Maybe we'll investigate it a little bit on Monday. Now, the weekly, what I want you to notice here is on the weekly, we're very highly likely going to put in a higher high on a closing basis. Now, the swing structure was already in with the swing high at the all-time high at around 123K or slightly above by the upper second standard deviation. But losing this upper first while putting in a high here, realistically gives price the volatility levels of interest as a zone between that upper first, which is going to be right around 114, 115 area, no matter where this closes, because of the position of the basis band or 20 simple. And we're likely going to see the basis band kind of move up towards the 103 level, 103.5 level. Maybe it comes up a little shy of it, but probably right around 103. And the basis band is above the last weekly higher low that needs to be held to maintain structure for the bulls here. So bulls would rather see a shallow correction, kind of a higher high to higher low, either here or right in the zone here on the weekly where this last higher high was, and then kind of get continuation, let the upper second grind up towards that 128 to 130, which is where that is likely to come in. Now, this is fairly low volatility within the bands, because the bands were already expanded, and this will only decrease that volatility as it heads back towards, or if it closes below the upper first, starts heading back towards the basis while the basis is heading up. So we will see volatility kind of tick down, and then we await kind of the next big daily move that moves into the weekly to kind of analyze potential upside and downside targets in areas of interest. But just watch the weekly close, 114,750. That would lock in the closing higher high structure here. And that closing higher high structure, many are going to be looking at it and go, well, it's bearish divergence because of this over here and all the historical bearish divergence. This is a new trend, and we don't have any in-trend bearish divergence right now. So if anything, what it would be lining up for is just a correction locally based on lower term time frame bearish divergences relative to the weekly here. And let's go ahead and get rid of this. And let's go ahead and kind of zoom out here so you can kind of see the bands are wide set. You know, we came into a compression, started the expansion to the downside, came up to the upside, higher low, higher high. And then we see that we're getting the lower bands curling up. And, you know, this is kind of set up for a grind, a little bit of mean reversion and grind in terms of a band structure setup. Nothing too crazy. What you're going to see is a lot of hand wringing about momentum. And this momentum divergence, like a regular Stochastic and many other momentum indicators throwing this divergence, 118, 350 to 400 is kind of the area of interest to the upside for a momentum shift. But we can see bullish corrections kind of chopping around in here. Nothing too crazy. We've seen this before. In fact, you know, going all the way back to last year, you know, we had the lower high put in on higher highs and kind of a momentum shift coming off of that. And then, you know, kind of holding the lows, sweeping, and then kind of rolling back up to the upside. But it is all about trend. This is an uptrend, and it's all about the last, you know, higher low. And that's going to be the 101 to 98,225. That's the big area that no matter what, the bulls want to hold that, or else trend is broken, and then trend reversal setups can occur from there. And it's good to see the basis above there. Would have preferred to see, you know, this actually come down and go into a compression and then head up, but you know, it's set up for kind of a sideways and up grind right now until proven otherwise, as long as that last higher low holds. Monthly, this is going to be a big one. And what you'll notice about this monthly is we have now a little bit of a different structure. Let's go to a longer term chart. Actually, let's go ahead to Bitcoin and the index chart here. And that's not great looking. Hold on. Let's go ahead and get this on here. All right, so we have the August open now. We do have closing higher highs in the monthly and a breakout and a clear breakout on the monthly. So a little bit of a back test, an odd looking close open for the index here, but you'll see that on the spot price, it's actually evened out. It's because in index, it's taking all of them and averaging them out. So in this case, we'll just use the Coinbase spot chart. We see the upper second is now, you know, at $122,000. This is very highly likely, you know, if this candle starts to turn green, be around 123. And if it starts to push that upper second, it's going to be around 125. What you want to see, if you're bullish on this, which by the way, this is a compressive structure here. We had our compression coming out of the bear market into the bull, and then expansion to the new all-time high prior to the halving, then higher lows since. And because of the grind sideways here, we've actually seen a little bit of expansion, then right back into compression. This is a pretty gnarly compression, but this is painting a grind up sideways and up picture while it's still in this nice uptrend. If this trend were to break, which would be, you know, right now, the only way this trend is going to break is below 82.5. And of course, at 74, 420, 69, then that's where things begin to change. That's where, you know, we have to be aware that market structure is likely going to set up for some sort of a reversal, at minimum, a bearish period into a consolidation or potentially a bear market. I suspect that's not where we're at this very moment, but just be aware of it. And you see that like lower seconds down here at 40K. We have lower first at 60K. We have the basis above the last higher low at 80. So it still looks fine. And in this case, I don't think there's much to be concerned about. I mean, the upper first is at 101,600, which is a key daily level around 101. You know, I'm gonna reserve my thoughts until we see the quarterly, the Q3 close into Q4. But this is this can go a couple of different ways. we can get potentially on the monthly coming into the end of the quarter. We'll continue to see, as long as Bitcoin is trading above the basis at 80,881K or so for this month, and then into next, we'll continue to see the basis move up. And what we want to see is the upper bands continuing to march up sideways, giving us some higher targets over time, which would be painting a grind to new all-time highs before potential structural changes in price action. All right, so daily, just be aware. Gotta recover, 114,750 to 115. Recover the bottom side, and then get above 117,800 to 118 and start working way back into the range here, 120 to 121 to go retest the highs. Be aware of potential reversals off of the lower side bands that are front runs of this that reclaim the range and shoot right back to the top side. As it stands right now, nothing too crazy. Daily momentum will shift on closes back above 116.8. And let's see if the 12 hour is getting down there. Now 12 hours got some juice still, and in fact, this one's actually full on expansion right now, and it's not going to subside until we see closes back above 114 at minimum, and really 116, 115, 700 essentially to 116. That's 115, 750. To 116. So need to see that really recover and work its way back into the range here to prevent further expansion down. Let's go ahead and take a look at the potential for alt season. Well, we're chopping around the lows here, getting ready for a potential reversal, maybe for Bitcoin dominance here. Yeah, beware. It's really 64 to 64.34%. Beware of that. It can still head up. Of course, that's where Bitcoin is outperforming alts in most cases, by and large. Obviously, there will be outliers. But if an alt season really is going to come, then this is going to start to stall around the 62.5 to 63 range, and not really make it back up to the 64% range, and then you want to see 60% dropped. Let's go ahead and take a look at TradFi real quick here, because TradFi, there's a lot being made about, this amount of money was, over $1 trillion lost in the markets. Like, it wasn't lost, it's changing hands, and is coming out of the markets. We have, Dow headed down, lower low structure after making some nice higher lows, and this is getting expansion kind of back towards a retest of the key area here at 42.8 or so. Bulls want to see that area hold up. We saw 3 touch points on it before kind of chilling out for a little bit, consolidation, and moving through back to the highs. NASDAQ is headed back towards its prior all-time high. Bulls want to see this area hold up, especially on longer term time frame closes, right around the high side area, around 22,000 to 22.2. And for SPY or SPX, whichever one you want to look at here, but we'll just use SPY. It's headed back towards that 613, 614 area. Is there some gap fills that it could do just below there around the 600 to 605? Sure. But want to see that area hold up on first pass. But break of structure in markets, a little bit of a gap down. Beware of mean reversion back to the upside to gap fill and then right back down. That is always a possibility. But the setup isn't quite mature enough right now. There's just kind of a big early month sell-off. And after some of the economic data that came out on Friday, not surprised by any of that. But we'll probably start to hear more and more about rate cuts actually coming to fruition. And then the big thing is Dixie here. Dixie did dump down. Now it got a nice strong buyback, and this is foreign capital trading back into the dollar, and in part because it's just cheaper to do so, right? If you're gonna honor the trade deals that have been signed thus far, and maybe we hear about more incoming here for purchasing from the United States, which will increase exports. So we'll see kind of which way that heads. It's a Friday first of the month. Next week is really kind of where the rubber is going to hit the road and give us kind of the path forward for the rest of August into September. And we'll just keep a pretty close eye on it. And there's not too much else to say here. Again, I'm not very concerned about this. I know some people are. It's all over. It's done. It's bull market's toast. And look at the economic data and like all this and that. It's fine. I mean, we still have traditional markets, and two of the major indexes for the U.S. here above all-time highs. Let's see what happens if they reclaim the prior all-time high zone that they broke out of. Dow is the more concerning one because it's kind of triple topped out. It did make new highs on futures, but we'll see where things go, and then I'm going to focus more going forward on some of the incoming economic data throughout August because I think it's important to understand what the market is watching and why the market can get surprised by some of this data and why we start seeing moves like this. I think that would go a long way in understanding that it's not just news-driven events. The market is positioning on a consistent basis for what some of the economic data already is, and getting outlier economic data like we saw from unexpected economic data from BLS, of course, is going to cause some repositioning, right? And what we saw was a lot of arb trades get squeezed, and then just selling off one side of the trade. And we'll see where they pick up that other side of the trade on the long side and then begin to play the ARB game again. Because now there is room in traditional markets and there is room in Bitcoin to continue to play that arbitrage game between the long and short side. And then we'll kind of come back to it, see what the market really desires here. And I'm going to leave you with that. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe and have a great weekend. With all that being said, Landy out. Take care. See you Monday.